Hillary Clinton. As to how this information became public, a spokesman for Chairman Grassley says it, quote, totally confounding that Ranking Member Feinstein would release the testimony unilaterally, claiming it will jeopardize the Judiciary Committee's ability to secure voluntary testimony. Here's Senator Feinstein defending her actions.
Why did you decide to do that?
Oh, because I think people are entitled to know what was said, and the lawyers also wanted it released. I see no problem with releasing it.
But Senator Feinstein, Senator Grassley says you've jeopardized their ability to get certain witnesses like Kushner. Your reaction?
Oh, I don't think so. That's been difficult in any event.
Why do you think they referred Steele to the Justice Department for potential criminal investigation?
My own view, because to my knowledge there has not been a single fact in that report that has been proven to be incorrect, that it's really to muddy the waters and create a problem. You know, Steele brought this information into the FBI, and it's quite amazing that you get punished for providing information.
Yeah, you know, she did the right thing. Chairman Grassley has no room to criticize anybody after his actions over the past several weeks. He's shown absolutely no independence, and in fact has proven that his only interest is muddying the waters. You read through these documents, the Republicans have selectively been leaking them to make them to mislead voters, to mislead journalists. So transparency was called for here because you had the chairman of the committee and members, unfortunately, of conservative media that wanted to twist and distort the true facts. And Peter Baker, I thought one of the most fascinating things here that we learned from this was that they actually got the information to the FBI because they had concerns early on, and then stopped talking to the FBI later on because they felt like the FBI wasn't taking it seriously enough. Of course, the FBI was quietly moving forward with Papadopoulos and moving forward, but just showing their intent, they actually knew, they felt like they had a responsibility because they had this information that nobody else seemed to have. And when it seemed like the FBI wasn't serious about it, they said, okay, we've done our job, and they walked away.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the most important things we learned from this is also that the emerging narrative from President Trump's supporters that this document was used as the basis for the FBI investigation is not the case. You know, that this was not the genesis of this investigation. It was not as a result of a Democrat-funded opposition research report, which is some of the people on Capitol Hill would like to present this. In fact, as Glenn Simpson notes, the FBI was already onto the issue, and in fact didn't seem to take it as seriously as Glenn Simpson thought they ought to take it. So, you know, I think that we learn a little more about the origins of the investigation. I think we learn a lot more about this firm, Fusion GPS, and its role, at least the role that Glenn Simpson is portraying. And I think it's you know, for journalists and for people who've been following this case, it's a useful window into an important chapter in the story.
And last night, Trump's personal lawyer said they're going to file a lawsuit against BuzzFeed, Ben Smith, for publishing the dossier. And you have a piece in the New York Times that is entitled, "I'm proud we published the Trump-Russia dossier." And in one sentence, you say, I haven't had a single person approach me to say, I wish I hadn't read the dossier and I wish I had less insight into the forces at play in America. Do you feel that way? Does anyone? So absolutely no concerns about publishing it. Any concerns about the lawsuit?
You know, I think, first of all, what you've seen, I mean, particularly this week, you have the Senate Intelligence Committee spending hours and hours and days intensely focused on debating this document. The notion that this document ought to be secret, that we ought not to know what they're debating, that broadly the public should have no insight into this incredibly high-stakes fight happening on Capitol Hill, in which both Republicans and Democrats, for different reasons, are making the case that this dossier is central to kind of what happened over the last couple of years, is ridiculous. And I don't think I don't think anyone thinks that at this point. I mean, in terms of the lawsuit, you know, Michael Cohen, and if you read the lawsuit, it's really very much about defending Donald Trump. Michael Cohen, as well as a couple of Russian figures, have sued us. You know, in Cohen in particular has a long history of harassing, occasionally suing journalists. But I think what's more broadly interesting is that you see both the Cohen lawsuit and these other lawsuits are coming at a moment when last year you saw particularly the Russians take the open American electoral system and try to turn it against other American institutions. I think you're seeing to some degree that with the legal system right now. It's being turned against the press.
Casey Hunt.
Hey, Ben. Yeah, I just have a quick question for you. One of the more interesting, it was somewhat buried in this transcript that Feinstein put out, is a lawyer for Fusion GPS kind of asserted, or did assert straightforwardly, that someone has already been killed as a result of the publication of this dossier and no harm should come to anybody related to this honest work. Do you know anything about that? Does that raise any concerns on your end?
Thanks for asking that, Casey, because I'm glad you did. And there has been, you know, he didn't give details, but it's been broadly reported that a KGB general, a guy named Oleg Arovkin, was allegedly, according to these reports, particularly in the British press, a source for the dossier, and that he was found dead. It's really important to note that he was found dead on December 26th, so that's 2 weeks before we published the dossier. So I think the lawyer must, if that's what he was referring to, he was mistaken. But it's not totally clear what he was referring to.
What you're saying, Ben, is that the Russian intelligence services are unusually adept and actually killed him 2 weeks before you even released the dossier. This is an intelligence service to be fearful of. It's
I mean,
sort of like straight
if he
out
was a
Minority
source,
Report,
if that's
isn't it?
why he died, there are a lot of dots being connected here.
Wow.
No, I was being sarcastic. The guy died 2 weeks before you released it. And Mika, the Republicans, the Republicans have been so spun up, Mika, about the dossier for a year now, and they know. I think they know that a large percentage of it is actually accurate, and yet they're getting one lie after another lie after another lie around it, and even unfortunately, I think it's dreadful that a Senate chairman would actually try to muddy the waters, as Dianne Feinstein said, as much as he has, just to try to keep the truth from the people of Iowa and the American people. But that's exactly what he's been doing, and it's all in the record. And you can look at the actual information and the testimony and see clearly that the Republicans were lying to their voters.
So at every turn, it appears this president is putting his own party in a horrible position, even if you look at yesterday's meeting. I'm not sure what the compliance for this president is in the Republican Party. I don't know what they think they're getting out of it. I don't know what they think they're getting in return.
Well,
I really don't.
Orrin Hatch says that he may be the greatest president ever. I mean, what a great honor to be working for a guy that Orrin Hatch thinks may be even a greater president than Abraham